everyone, it's Squaggy, and I want to talk about the recent erratas in Bushiroad's strategy presentation. In case you're unfamiliar, in addition to the recent announcement of a restricted list, there was also a set of cards that are being errata'd. And errata, if you're unfamiliar, just means that these cards are getting new text on them that changes the way that they work mechanically. So the current list we have is that Ye Wandering Souls and Nectar are now Zorga locked, and the White Wings, Black Wings mechanics are locked to Alestial, who is the mother of the mechanic. And I want to talk and share about why they did that, why I think they did that, alongside their actual reasoning, the current consequences to this, and looking forward what we could expect and what we maybe should do now that we can expect Bushiroad to be setting this precedent. So, erratas are not new for Vanguard in general. A lot of premium players, you guys may be familiar with the original on-hit strides being reworked into monstrous first strides, or G-Boss crits being revamped with new text that lets them keep up with the speed of premium. Those are erratas to buff cards. These changes are completely different in terms of their intent. The aforementioned erratas use iconic cards and make them work in a modern era, whereas these standard erratas appear to be fixing card design from the start of the D series. From this Bushiroad article, which is about verbatim what they say on the livestream, quote, "The Cardfight Vanguard development team is committed to developing new cards and improving game balance so that fighters can continue to have an even better gaming experience in the future. In this context, we have decided to implement usage restrictions, errata, and rule changes for some previously developed cards and rules that we must closely monitor for future new card development. We understand that this will impact fighters who enjoy playing with these cards and rules, but we will continue our efforts in card development to provide appealing cards in future sets. We kindly ask for your understanding." It's a lot of PR speak, but the basic gist of it is just they're gonna change some stuff and they're sorry, and they do understand that this affects a lot of the decks that are currently being played. Now, whether or not the cards are good or not now isn't really the question. It is the fact that current era card design conflicts with the original intention of these mechanics. These mechanics currently mostly appear in rogue strategies and some fringe topping lists, but it's clear that Bushiroad doesn't want to over-centralize card design with these guys in mind. I guess it kind of goes without saying that early D and modern D standard are very different beasts, and we can also see that in the restrictions. Defensing Roar is an old card that has evolved from kind of cool design to 5 extra perfect guards in a deck. Bell doesn't do much, but if the Nanaclear deck, or if any other deck wants to have Bind as a cost or a mechanic in general, in Stoichia, Bushiroad has to double think about that, and they have to balance around Bell gaining 50 quadrillion power or whatever. And it means we're missing out on some more innovative cards and decks that could be fun and balanced, but they can't be around the current card pool. Rather, now we just get variations of Counterblast 1 and Standard Column. So, in theory, this lets them make new fun things. As the design philosophy and power level of cards change, these cards are going to be constant pricks in their side. So they're kind of powerful, and it's also unlikely that they can cover and playtest interactions players find in seconds that they're using to win games in a manner that the card design team just doesn't intend for. There are like thousands of games happening in a day, and the Bushiroad design team can handle like 10 max. And it's not like they never intended for this to work this way. Ye Wandering Souls is used in the anime by Jinky on Griffagila to show that, you can get creative with the deck building. But I think now they've reached a point where they're like, okay, the creativity players has is cool, but it is being eclipsed by the power that it's providing. For a few examples of some of the ways that these cards are being applied right now in Standard, we can see in the Chiho Cup Hakata, the second place team featured Leonor Vivace, which runs a copy of Ye Wandering Souls, which creates a quintuple drive Vivace turn. Slower decks like Lascaria use Nectar of Sensationalism to put on their restanders to gain double critical attackers, and sometimes Night Rose takes it in. The Wings cards don't see as much of a success on a large level, but at a local level in the JP format, we've seen Charmot experimenting with both Wings black and white, and they get some wins here and there, some tops. And if you look at the Wings cards, they're ticking time bomb of power now that High 5 gives every deck access to the Even Bind. My testing partner was trying out Lishafel with this Stun Black Wings card, I'll put a picture up here, during the Levidras format, which completely shut down Squirrel turns. It wasn't ideal, it was cool tech, but it was just something that they clearly never intended for. So that's the why, both their official statement and a little bit of what I think. So, where does that leave us now? Personally, I think this is a healthy change for expanding design space, and you can disagree on that or not, but in the meantime, this does hurt many rogue decks and have left a couple builds almost unplayable, and I just want to bring those to light right now, just to show that, these do have far-reaching effects. Stoic Gryphagila comes to mind. It uses both the Ye Wandering Souls and Nectar to apply pressure, and especially when Stoic Grypho debuts in the anime with Ye Wandering Souls, it is a bit of a kick in the teeth to not have it anymore. Christianos, if you play it pure, also suffers by needing the Nectars to put pressure on as well. And as previously mentioned, the restanding critical that Lascaria has access to is important for a slower deck like itself to clinch some games. There are variations of Claudine that run these cards, and at the very least it does tighten the amount of orders that Claudine has access to. And for you bug kids out there, Mushi King losing Ye Wandering Souls is a big deal, so now 2 out of 3 of these bug decks just got hit. Again, the White Wings, Black Wings stuff was mostly so Sharmot could farm Perfect Guards, and if they were using the Odd Wings, I think that's the white one, they get access to the critical. So this isn't a comprehensive list of the consequences of these erratas, and I guess it's not really a large amount of decks in quantity, but these are still decks that are momentarily weakened. And these rogue decks are frequently pet decks, the type that people brew or pick up for fun at a local. Momentarily, it can definitely feel like creativity is being stifled and your fave is being shafted. I would know, I almost bought Stoichia Sephirogila, and then this happened. I watched a loved one crumble to the ground because Lascaria basically got hit harder than Buff Sagra this format. And that does suck. Especially since it is the first round of erratas like this, it comes a little bit out of left field. So even if the reasoning is good, the collateral damage that is unexpected is going to momentarily feel really bad for these players, and I'm sorry. Maybe there is an argument that if you can break a -1 for drive +1, your deck shouldn't exist, or that if your deck needs to farm Perfect Guards with the Celestial cards and High Five, it's a little flawed inherently. But whether or not that's flawed or not, it is how these decks were competing a little more, and it does suck to see that go, especially since these decks, they're not like top tier threats, you know. They're just like what people bring for fun. So, what could we expect next? For now, Rogue kids, feel free to be sad or mad or get back to brewing something with your favorites. But let's look at some of the implications for the future, with erratas now in the ballpark. So as they say earlier on, they are gonna quote-unquote continue our efforts in card development to provide appealing cards in future sets. That is PR speak, but it could also mean that hopefully we're going to get some compensation for these decks. Stoichia has always been a pretty order-centric nation, so hopefully we get more balanced orders that they can use in stuff like Claudine, and I think it's like Flagberg. I think we have to make orders that fulfill similar roles that can still be a little generic for these decks to have similar pressure. So like 10,000 power and 1 critical is the cap on a generic Nectar could fulfill a bit of the pressure hole. Understandably, giving decks like an extra drive for the cost Ye Wandering Souls did, which was like nothing, is kind of tough to balance. You would probably need it like once per battle or give it like a heavier cost. And what we can expect in the future is that obviously Lyrical's going to get more cards, but you know, the Celestial cards aren't as good as the Zorga orders, and maybe Celestial's getting White Wings and Black Wings cards that they've been testing, or like, no, if Siana gets access to this hypothetical White Wings cards, it's crazy. So maybe they're just future-proofing for those. What could be a scary thought is what else is on the chopping block. If Bushiroad really wants to go harder on limiting generic pieces, we could be seeing generic ride lines meeting their end shortly. I could definitely see a world in which the Roroa ride line forces you to show a grade 3 Roroa in your ride deck to proc the plant token effects. I could also see Rancor Chain and Black Tier Husk having to show Zorga. These are a little more unlikely because generic bosses rely on them, but who knows if that matters to Bushiroad or not. The Sephirogila ride line was seen as like a safe way to generate advantage, and then you just ride the grade 3 from your hand in like a Claudine deck, but it doesn't really like do anything. It never came to fruition in more than just like thought experiments, but you never know. And finally, moving away from Stoichia and trees, Willista has a similarly generic ride line that empowers decks like Lishafel to get their guaranteed straight up procs on 2, and we don't really know what Bushiroad thinks about like where standards should be with these restrictions, so I'm not saying that this will happen, but I'm saying that if I were Bushiroad and I were cutting down on a lot of generic stuff that they didn't intend to be generic, I think the Willista and Roroa ride lines and the Zorga ride lines are key parts of like generic engines that a lot of decks use that they maybe aren't balancing around yet. I mean, Lishafel lists don't even play their Lishafel ride line anymore because comparatively it's bad. It's like just getting the free gem order now. And based on all these bans and the fact that they are willing to errata cards, I think that they're getting closer to accepting that Dragveda is more of a problem than they intended. I think it could be a good opportunity to errata the Dragon Empire Overtrigger to something more in line with the Dark States one or the Keter one. I'm not really sure what they would look like. I'm thinking that if you check Dragveda, the person who checked it gets set on fire in real life. I don't know. That's just kind of the skills that I would give it. So, what's the point of this video? I just wanted to cobble together some thoughts about how I think Bushiroad clearly wants some pieces to be generic and others to, not. And in the future, you should probably start expecting erratas to pop up on the restricted lists, even for decks and mechanics that aren't in the spotlight currently. Keep it in mind that it could happen at any point. There are a lot of older pieces that people constantly find little ways to use and apply. What if they really want to sell a station and they get rid of the order that lets you attack the back row? That could suck. But yeah. Hopefully, being optimistic with the freedom to fix these earlier design mistakes now that they have set this precedent, Vanguard now has the freedom to create cards that push the boundaries that these cards made early on in the game's lifespan. So, tell me what you think. Let me know if you think that Bushiroad is what they're going to errata next, basically. You can argue whether or not it's good or bad, but I think we should look forward and think, what could they errata next? What would you like to see errata, maybe? And, I, for one, am excited for the Stoichia order in Sephirogila that makes it tier 0. Okay, that's all I had to say. Swaggy out.